Good evening. This is CTV News for Wednesday, December 11th. I'm Sonia Srivastava.
And I'm Rochelle Metzger. Glad you could join us tonight. As the world continues to mourn the passing of Nelson Mandela, we begin tonight in the nation's capital, where Americans are celebrating his heroic life.
That's right. A man the president calls a giant of history who inspired people around the globe to embrace his universal message of peace and justice was honored today in Washington, D.C.
Nelson Mandela is known as one of the most courageous freedom fighters of our time. As well-wishers made their way into the church today. Our Denise Douglas was there, and she joins us now with details.
Hi there, ladies. This is the program that was handed out today, the memorial service. You can see a nice, wonderful picture of Nelson Mandela and some very inspiring words right here. But today you could actually feel the love for Nelson Mandela as everyday people talk to us about how he touched their lives. A number of them were outside the National Cathedral today. That's where the memorial service was held to celebrate the anti-apartheid leader's life. He died last Thursday at the age of 95. After 27 years in prison fighting segregation, he would victoriously become South Africa's first black president. The service at the cathedral was filled with song and prayer in his honor. Dignitaries, including Vice President Joe Biden, spoke about Mandela.
And how right the South African poet Peter Horn was when he said, he dreamed the world another way. Unlike any man I had ever met, or quite frankly, with notable exception, ever read about. I looked at him and I said, Mr. President, I can't imagine what you've been through. 27 years, you must be so angry. And an experience I had that many of you had, he looked at me and said, no, my jailers were only doing their job.
Outside the service, we spoke to several people, including 2 South African natives who remember life under the apartheid regime. They say that Mandela's impact will never be forgotten.
There was a time when we couldn't even, we were not even allowed to have a picture of Nelson Mandela with us. You could go to jail or lose your life if you had a picture of this man. And he meant the whole life to us. The time that he spent in jail for us, the sacrifice that he went through for us, I mean, it's beyond words can explain, really.
As a South African, being part of the legacy of the country and the change in governance of the country and what Mandela stood for. And if you think back over time, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mandela, there's common threads there. How they evolved into their leadership, from being a little more realizing at the end of the day that a passive, non-violent approach is the way to get things done. And he was really able to drive that out and instill that in the country. So a lot of respect to the man.
A lot of kind words there for Nelson Mandela. His body will lie in state in South Africa until he is buried on Sunday.
And we hear that there were some people who were upset because they couldn't get in today.
Right, there were some people who were out there, and what happened was that the staff at the cathedral and so forth decided to take away the magnetometers, and once the magnetometers were taken away, then the Secret Service, because the Vice President and other dignitaries were there, would not allow people in. And so they were upset that they could not be let in, but I guess that's just how it sort of happened.
Well, they just have to embrace his universal message of peace and celebrate his life outside with everyone else who couldn't get in.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Denise.
Denise.
Well, havoc struck around 11 o'clock last night when an attempted robbery nearly turned deadly. Prince George's County Police say officers responded to a call about an armed theft at an apartment building in the 6700 block of Bellcrest Road. That's where police found 3 adult males suffering from stab wounds. 2 of the victims were treated for non-life-threatening injuries. 1 is still in critical condition. The crime is under investigation, but police tell us they do not believe this was a random act of violence.
Meanwhile, Prince George's police arrest a district man for vehicular and negligent manslaughter. 18-year-old Ronald Hayes was taken into custody in Riverdale Park today. Authorities say he was speeding when he lost control of his vehicle and crashed into a van in Capitol Heights on December the 7th. 23-year-old Brittany Everett and 21-year-old Brittany Queen both died. 4 other passengers in the van, including 2 children, as well as Hayes and his passengers, suffered minor injuries in that accident. And just minutes before the crash, police responded to a report of shots fired on Walker Mill Road. And at that time, officers saw Hayes speeding and tried to pull him over, but he fled the scene. The suspect allegedly turned off his headlights to evade authorities moments before crashing into the victim's van. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Sonia Shrivastava.
And I'm Rochelle Metzger.